in Sarah's kitchen, and there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Check this.
Welcome one and all to the DL debate. Thanks so much for tuning in. Now live on Highland Radio or back via the podcast. Thank you, the legend Ivan Borden for the Power Hour Plus, Michaela for the news. Joe Dex, as ever, producing, talking fast. A lot of stuff to get through tonight. We always run out of time. I think I should start fast, should I? That's the way you want to hit any game. We'll hit the show like that tonight, folks. A special championship review tonight. Later on the show, Maureen O'Donnell will be coming on to give us a lowdown on the ladies football championship and all the action from the weekend. But first, we are going to cut across the senior, intermediate and junior. I've got three heavyweights in the studio, and I mean that in experience.
Stop looking at John.
Clarify that.
They're great.
We're easy to put down.
Used to speaking. It's good to see you up, John. I know after.
Listen, as I said to Brendan earlier on, show up no matter what the situation is. Don't back it down.
That, of course, is the voices of Pauric, Hilferty, the great Pauric, the enigmatic Brendan Kilcoyne, and John Gildea, who got bad predictions. Give us bad predictions last week. Thankfully, got it wrong. John, fair play to you. You're up here. You're not a man to shirk a challenge. John, we'll get straight into it. Actually, what you said, I think nearly came right in terms of the experience of Niamh Connell, because it did start to count second half when the game went into melting pot. But an overview of the drama of Saturday night.
Yeah, and I suppose going back to your earlier point there, this is probably my last show, because as I proved last week, I predicted 4 out of 4 and I was absolutely wrong on all 4. So what do I know? But no, listen, Saturday night was ultimately a game of two halves. It was everything that every cliche under the sun could be used from it. St. Eunan's were impressive in the first half. The game lacked a bit of intensity. The crowd was flat. St. Eunan's had it all their own way. Were very in control. And I was speaking to people around me at half time, and I was saying, Eunan's should have been much further ahead. And I know they were very clinical. I think I heard Niall O'Donnell saying 9 chances created, 7 scored. But I think there was a real opportunity to drive on in that period of time and maybe go 6-7 up. And obviously the game was over at that stage. And I was saying to people at half time, Niamh Connell dangerous to leave hanging around. And they were left hanging around. They weren't put away. And, I was despondent at half time because they'd shown nothing. There wasn't a challenge. They turned over ball time and time again. Everything you wouldn't expect from this team over the last 10 years. And I was hoping there'd be a kick at half time. I was hoping there would be some skin and hair and soul searching at half time. And then obviously what happened was St. Eunan's had a really good opportunity for a goal. I felt the wrong pass was given, and then the opportunity was lost after about 3 minutes, and that would have put the game away. And then the whole game changed in that moment. Yeah. And Niamh Connell came into it. They attacked the next 3 times. They didn't get a score the next 3 times, but their intensity level, and driven by Anthony Thompson, who I thought was exceptional. He was just a delight to watch. And
he was good first half now, John, as well, because he got inside for the free.
Well,
and then he
kept
got
him in the game.
Yeah,
he
those
kept
2 scores.
He drove the whole thing on, and sheer force of will. And it was, I know, we can talk about lots of players in the Niamh Connell club, but Anthony, deserves special recognition because he kept them in the game when the game was gone, and he dragged them back single-handedly, along with obviously Rorty and Ethan and all the guys in the second half. And then the game changed, and then Niamh Connell scored 5 in a row, and the whole game changed on his head. And I was saying to Brendan earlier on, if Niamh Connell had gone 2 ahead, you would think, right, the writing's on the wall here, they'll put a stranglehold on it. But in fairness to St. Eunan's and all the wacky football that was going on, and it was end-to-end stuff, and some, as we spoke about earlier, some, shall we say, refereeing decisions that left a lot to be desired on both sides. They found a way back, and they kicked an equalising point. Niamh Connell went a point ahead again, and then they found another way of kicking an equalising point. So they showed an awful lot of heart. Yeah. Ciara Moore had a big impact on it. Thought he had a really good game. Shane O'Donnell really drove it on at crucial stages, and I thought the St. Eunan's substitutes had a huge impact in the game, particularly Keelan Ward. I thought he was exceptional. He took a great mark. He kicked the ball inside very quickly for another score, and then he was the man that laid on the score for Moore as well. So St. Eunan's subs, I felt, had a big impact in the game. Our subs, not to the same extent, but I think to be fair, that could be to the fact that we were missing a couple of men already and we had to go into our depth a little bit earlier. But all in all, a great championship match. It was everything we thought it would be. We thought, like, over the last, and you and I text on Saturday night, over the last 3 years, there's been a point, 2 points, and a point. And ultimately, as I was saying to Pauric earlier, we could be sitting here tonight talking about St. Eunan's going for 4 in a row as easily as St. Eunan's stopped Naomh Conaill going for 3 in a row. There's nothing in between these two teams for the last 10 years. And ultimately, this game fell for St. Eunan's, and it could equally as fall for Naomh Conaill, as all the other games have.
Yeah, definitely could. Brian, just on that first half John was mentioned there, Eunan's, I think the whole county, having seen bits and pieces, expected Eunan's to play. Were you surprised by Naomh Conaill in terms of, there wasn't a more rigid shutdown or more intensity in their play? Like, they were playing catch up then. It was a dangerous enough game. I agree with John second half, but just in the first half, as well as Eunan's played, were you surprised by Naomh Conaill?
Yeah, but I don't think you get a choice in that, Brendan. I think that's just the way that the game plays out, and I think that Eunan's brought that energy and brought all the football in the first half. And Naomh Conaill, I've so much respect for what they've done over the last number of years and the championships they won, and they're so tight and they're so well organised defensively and all that kind of thing. So there was an element of surprise there. But I think, and Brendan, you're involved with St. Eunan's yourself, I think Eunan's management need to take a lot of credit too, in that there was some big decisions made prior to the game and players that didn't start, and you mentioned Keelan Ward coming on and the decision. Like Kieran Thompson, Anthony Thompson is their leader, but Kieran Thompson is the guy that has won Naomh Conaill these games down through the years. He's tight games, he's always the man that comes up at the big moments. And Conor Morrison, putting Conor Morrison on Kieran, I think was a big and a good shout, because Conor had been marking Charlie McGuinness and they had some massive run-ins in the last couple of years, and all was interesting, but I felt that was a really good shout. And having the option to bring in Keelan, Darren Mulgrew and Owen McGeehan, McGeehan, he's such a talented wee footballer. He found so much space at that stage of the game when Naomh Conaill were set up, and you could, I just watched a clip of it, you could see 3-4 Naomh Conaill men that suddenly realised he was in 10 yards of space but just couldn't get to him. He did really well to get that shot away, so he did. So how
did Brick Malloy get that much space? Now I know Eunan's obviously down to 13 but Eunan's did switch off there too. I just seen a clip back of it there, and I was like, right boys, hold on a second, this is the last play. And there was a late challenge, John, we just referenced it there, in terms of fouls. Right, before we even get to that, I think 25 seconds. Well, we won the match. We can't do poor me, but we're analysing here. Can't do poor me. You could do poor me. Hey. But no, I was looking 25 minutes in the second half. The free count was 10-1 to Naomh Conaill. Like, there was such a switch. Now, for years, lads, I've been obviously doing commentary BBC. You have to be impartial. I try and be impartial, and Reyes is tough boy, don't get me wrong. The last thing I ever want to talk about, but when it goes so far one way, I mean, the Glenties man said to me today, he said, I couldn't believe what was happening. It just seemed to be free after free after free, and there was that scenario, and the one free then that you maybe could have got, John, which I just look back at the clip, because along with the freeze, you had the extra bit added time, which seemed excessive. Went on the 6 minutes 15 from the 4 minutes. I was just trying to see where it was. I know there's a couple of black cards. Sean took about a while kicking the ball out and that, but it just seemed excessive. It looked like that last play was going to happen. That said, Eunan's obviously had the ball up the pitch, dropped the ball, and up came the Brick. Now, I've seen Brick kick them many times on. He was about 5 or 6 yards outside the D by the time he had it, but there was a man coming diving, and I think that was a big thing with Eunan's in terms of trying to get shots under pressure. But the question mark was, did he foul? And
listen, I think it would have been a harsh decision at
yeah,
that stage.
It would have been harsh, but if you look at the other frees we're given, it certainly wouldn't have been any worse than what we've seen.
But I do think, listen, as you said, referee's a tough job, and the level of intensity in the second half ratcheted up to a level where it was just manic. Right, it was, people were throwing their bodies everywhere, places that you and I wouldn't even go, and just it was real intense. Because I looked at the watch, the ball was thrown out at half time. Eunan's had a goal chance. Glenties took over for 20 minutes, and I looked at the watch, and there was 5 minutes to go. That was the game.
But John, is that not where a referee needs to be, Cam? Now I know it's kind of hard, right, and there's a lot happening, but I think that's in where it lies in terms of, for me, when the game's mad like that, he needs to be, on it,
But it's like, when you get a young player there and you throw him into a championship game and you don't know if he's going to sink or swim until he's in the middle of it and lose his head. And I'm not saying the referee lost his head by any stretch of imagination, but the game took on an intensity that he may not just have come across before. And there was so much riding on it. And ultimately, listen, I know it was 10-1, but then there was other frees, like Niamh Conall got a free towards the end, Oran Doherty got hit in the ankle and started to hop, and he gave the free, and then he hopped the ball, and then he gave a free the other way again. There was all sorts of crazy decisions, and to be honest, I don't think it helped either team. Probably added to the excitement, and it added to the frustration and the crowd and everything.
Your
else.
excitement, maybe not, mate.
No, I know, but it's ultimately the game came down to small margins, as it has for every game apart from the final 3 or 4 years ago where Union's blew Niamh Conall out. But in 10 years, if you look back on this, the score has been 10-9, 11-8. That's the way the games are. And ultimately it was Union's turn this time. And I think there was so much hurt and so much pain from the other games that when it really, really mattered, they found a way of actually getting across the line because they needed to. And even though as a Niamh Conall man, I left the game going, we might have won that, or maybe we could have snuck that. I'm not disheartened because they gave me so much in that second half that the first half wasn't, that I could walk away and go, right, I've seen the way some of the younger lads played, I've seen the way Rorty and those lads played. They're still going to be there for the next 4 or 5 years. So are Unions. This 1 point here, there and everywhere else is going to continue for as long as we're hanging around. And it's not going to change because they're so evenly matched. And I know new management and you're part of it, which is fantastic. But as I said to Pauric earlier on, we could be sitting here right now talking about Rory Kavanagh going for 4 in a row because that's the margin. And ultimately we're not, because Niamh Conall were going for 3 in a row and Union stopped them, and they thoroughly deserved it. They brought something different. They really went at it in the first half, and they found a way to win a game that other years they might have lost. So 100% credit to St Eunan's and the management.
Is that the big thing for Eunan's, Brian, coming out of this in terms of, and I just said to John before we came in here about the game went into an old school type of play. For all the coaching and everything goes on and everything, it really came down to players on the pitch then taking responsibility, taking ownership, showing a bit of guts. And for Eunan's to be behind twice to a team like Niamh Conall to come out and they actually come and had a winner, it showed a tremendous amount of guts from them. And as John said, it was a bit of backs to the wall. Maybe that helped push Eunan's across.
Oh yeah, certainly. And like even listening to a few of the Eunan's lads that were interviewed after the match, like they did carry a lot of hurt from them few, and that happens a lot of different teams. So they all referenced that, but it was really pleasing from a Eunan's point of view that they did weather the storm. And listen, you go 4 or 5 points down in a game, you expend a lot of energy getting back into the game. And when you're playing a quality team, and there's no doubt Eunan's have a lot of quality in their team, they're going to get their chances and they're going to get another opportunity as the game progresses. And that's really how it transpired, that they did get them opportunities. And there was the missed goal chance early on that probably could have shut the game down at that stage. But the fact that Eunan's were able to weather that storm and show the character that maybe was lacking in previous games, in other games, if it was not lacking, maybe it was questioned in other games, in other big games against Niamh Conall. But they certainly stood up to it, and they found them few moments that were enough to get them across the line on Saturday night. And that's a positive from a Eunan's point of view, because there is this constant questioning: do they have it to go toe to toe with Niamh Conall, with Gildea? And I thought they stood that test really well on Saturday night.
Yep. And listen, folks, whatever happens, we're going to have a unique pairing in the county final after a couple of brilliant victories at the weekend. And Dunlow is one of them against St Michael's. John, coming from a period of first county finals and doing all that there in terms of the progression of the club, what a chance Dunlow, St Michael's, have now of that opportunity. But first, St Michael's come back against Kilcoyne. We had a bit of chat out there. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Pauric was down. Pauric's going to take it on from here on in, the rest of the coverage and look at the semi-finals. But I mean, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. Looking at the updates, it looked like game over in terms of that. But the bottle and the building was amazing. Those two games ended up some of their scoreline, 2-18-13. But I mean, Kilcoyne, with all their ammunition and power, just shows you, John, momentum, the huge swing, the penalty save, and everything that went with it. It was a phenomenal day for them and for the two clubs. But St Michael's first, we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and listen, it was a phenomenal weekend for football in general, because if you look at it across the board, the biggest winning margin was 2 points, and then was a point. And everything was in the melting pot right up to 3 and 4 minutes into extra time. So from that perspective, it was great to see. Obviously, it's fantastic for St Michael's and Dunlow, particularly Dunlow. If you look at Dunlow, like they won the Intermediate Championship, and they've gone on this fairy tale journey into the Senior Championship, and now they find themselves in a county semi-final along with St Michael's. And again, St Michael's are a team that have flattered to deceive over the years. I know they were in a final, must be nearly 10, 15 years ago now.
13 was it?
13 was it?
I think so.
And obviously it didn't work their way. And we always looked at St Michael's, and you look at the Christy Toys, the Colin McFaddens, the Martin McElhinnys, and you felt that there was more there, and you thought, are they going to come and could they put it together? And ultimately, the St Michael's time has come in under the radar to a certain extent. Like there was no expectations of St Michael's or Dunlow this year, in any regard, and I mean that respectfully to both. And they put on a big show against Kilcar. Obviously, goals played a crucial part in the two games. Kilcar were in total control, missed the penalty, and then a couple of goals. They're back in the game, and momentum shifts. And Kilcar couldn't do what St Eunan's could do, in the sense of regroup, reorganise, and bring the quality to see out the game. And that was the difference there. And then obviously the other game we'll talk about as well is the Glenswally-Dunlow game, in exactly the same type of situation. Glenswally were opened up in a way that you wouldn't expect from a Gary McDaid side, because it's really a defensive first structure. Took their eye off the ball a little bit. Dunlow hit them with 2 quick goals, and then all of a sudden momentum, young inexperienced side to a certain extent, there's that kind of exuberance of youth, and then all of a sudden you're on an upward trajectory, and the two more established teams couldn't deal with it and got found out.
Yeah, and that's something, I suppose, reflecting on that game, Glenswally against Dunlow. Pressure on Glenswally there as well, and speaking to a couple of people who's at the game, the physical presence of Dunlow was something that they came out of that possibly even more physical than Glenswally. So it just shows, as you pointed out, John, the development, Brendan, of that side over the last number of years. It's really, really encouraging for sides coming up from the intermediate. But Dunlow, once again, they are a championship team from years gone by, and look, they've re-established themselves once again.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic to see Dunlow back in the semi-final. It's a good number of years since they were competing. You have to go back to when Tony and Eddie and the boys were playing, and Raymond, and they were really, and they were probably unlucky or unfortunate not to push on and win a championship at that time. But I've just read somewhere that it's 1964 since they appeared in the county final, so you can imagine the build up down there this week. It's a pity that it is just a week, that they don't get to enjoy it a bit longer, because it is a bit rushed, but they're totally there on merit, so they are. You look at the Kern lads, you look at Karen McGee, you look at these type of players, they're all strong physical players throughout the field, so they are. And to take on Glenswally, like at the start of the year, and John said, no one would have predicted, no one in the right mind would have predicted that St Michael's and Dunlow would be competing in a county semi-final, with one of them having a brilliant opportunity to get to a final. And I think that's brilliant for football, and I think it's great to see teams like that come through. I think it'll encourage other teams, because there's all this talk about top 4s and top 2s and all this kind of thing, but to see breakthrough teams coming in and the excitement that'll create in their regions over the next week or two is fantastic. And going back to, I know we're flipping over and back here from games, going back to the, Kilcar been totally in control. Like apparently, you were there, Pauric, 9-2, totally in control, playing fabulous football, getting up the field, getting scores, leaders all over the field. And something like a missed penalty, and when you lose momentum in football, it can be really difficult to get it back. And that transpired to be the case for Kilcar, who Michael's just kind of steamrolled them then for the last.
It was one of the most strangest games I've covered in a long, long time, because you're going in at half time, you're looking at the score sheet and you're going, it's 9-2, game over. There's even, I just remember thinking the ball has just been thrown up here, 36 seconds gone. They had another point scored, Oran Dugan, and that was the flow of the game right up to that actual penalty. So it was a real strange game in that way. But when it shifted, St Michael's, to their absolute credit, they hunted in packs and created those opportunities. I remember one aspect of the game, Patrick McBurdy was turned over deep in the St Michael's defence, and the ball was moved really, really quickly. I think it was Daniel McLaughlin got on the end of it, stuck over the bar. That was 7 points to 12, and as that moved forward, and suppose, John, as you indicated there, or maybe yourself, Brendan, was about St Eunan's and Neve Connell would have, resettled themselves, got reorganised, and possibly or would have seen out that game, and Kilcar will be kicking themselves.
They will, yeah, and I suppose we're coming to the back end, and again, some phenomenal players in Kilcar of that golden generation from a Kilcar perspective that never quite did what we all expected them to do. Like, that was a team with so much talent, the McHughes, the McBurtys, like they had everything going for them. I know they took a bad beating by Neve Connell last year, and I think it just, as you know, when the game runs away from you, there's not much you can do about it. I don't think it would happen St Eunan's or Neve Connell, because they have enough big victories behind them to go stop, or enough maturity within the team. And that was a surprising aspect of the game. There's a hell of a lot of of experience in that Kilcar team. They have All Ireland winners, Ulster medals, multiple All Stars. At 7-8 points up, nobody could have seen it. But it's a huge credit to St Michael's and a never say die attitude to go, we're gonna keep fighting here. And when they got the wind in the sails, it was a force of nature, which was fantastic.
And let's look at St Michael's. We've talked about Kilcar. It's all about St Michael's here. The coming into this game without Michael Langan, look, nobody actually tipped them to beat Kilcar, and they came out of it in fashion too. Suppose that aspect of St Michael's, the progression throughout that game, the belief real, Brendan, to continue.
Absolutely, Pauric. And you look at, they went through the group stages, they won the 4 games. They went down to Mahergallen the last game and against Gildea. Now, however that game transpired, it doesn't matter. They went down and they got the job done. They came away with the win, and they took great. You could see the pride they took in getting that result down there. And I'd have to say that they were really, really well set up now. They were really well set up defensively. Again, they have a lot of physical big guys, and then you have the Michael Langan, I thought was superb that day, but like the Martin McElhennys, the Andrew Kellys, the 2 O'Reilly brothers playing inside, like all really, really good. And they're going to be going in full of confidence. And of course the Michael Langan question is a big question, and there's talk of, will he fly home now? And an opportunity to get to a county final, get him home. We want to see him playing. We want to see the best players playing in the county semi-finals, and I'd love to see him back, so I would, Yeah.
And I suppose looking at that, John, it's a difficult one, but it's a fantastic position to be in, St Michael's, in the semi-final now. But that they will get so much out of that victory against Kilcar.
Oh yeah, huge belief. But then again, they're playing, Dunlow with exactly the same situation. They're not expected to be there. They had a big result over a very favoured and fancied Glenswally side. So it is the makings of an amazing game. They're both athletic, set up defensively, physically, and ultimately neither one of them have anything to lose right now. They're in bonus territory, and to get into a county final is a huge achievement for both clubs, given was that 64 and Michael's in the last 13 years. And going back to an earlier point that Brendan made, it's the one big bugbear I have with the championship, is that we seem to be now, because we didn't do things properly at the beginning, or the way the structures, to rush everything through right now. And in a novel semi-final like this, those two clubs should be given the opportunity to have 2 weeks to prepare for it, to have the buzz in the town. You can't replace days like that, and to have them bundled through in a rush to get to the back end of something does the people of the parish, the people of the club, and those club players a disservice. It's okay for St Eunan's and Neve Connell to a certain extent,
and even Gildea have a 6-day turnaround from a quarter final to a semi final. I don't think that's fair, because these players train so hard and work so hard and get themselves into such good condition. Any wee niggle or knock now, and players.
And it's something as like one of your main players gets a niggle the week before, 6 days recovery, he can't play to his full capacity. And like Niall O'Donnell, I don't think was at full capacity against Neve Connell. And the game has been decided by things outside of the talent of the players and the structure of the clubs themselves. Injuries, men away. It just seems to be a rush. And I think
this is our prime competition within the county, within the club competitions, and to be rushing it 3 weeks in a row. St June's going out 3 Saturday nights in a row. Gildea were playing yesterday, and they're out again next Saturday. I just think give them a week between quarter-finals, semi-finals,
just to get those injuries, because I just know by talking to some of the St Michael's people yesterday, there's a few players that they have there that could be doubtful for the weekend. And look, I suppose St Michael's against Dunlow, it's in McCool Park on Sunday at 3:30. Gildea against St Eunan's is at 7:30 on Saturday night. So it is, it's a very quick turnaround, lads.
Yeah, it's if you look at professional football players in the UK and they play a couple of extra games and they're whining about it and there's no physicality at all in comparison to the way the GAA is played. I just think it's something we need to look at as a county. If you look at the Tyrone County Championship and it's, they're given time, there's a league format, and then when it goes to knockout, they're given time between games. I just think that when you've given so much over the year, like these guys have been training since December, right? And the championship's over in 6 weeks. Yeah. It's like, what are we doing to players? And we're looking at player welfare in split seasons. Surely we have to respect our own club championship to the point where we had 4 amazing games over the weekend. The very least that those teams deserve is a couple of weeks to prepare, to go out and give their best in a semi-final for an opportunity to go to a final. I don't think it's a lot to ask, and we should look at it as a county board and as a county to do better.
I think that point by John Brenton, it's 100%, because you see it in smaller communities like Uganda, Dunlow, massive tradition. A week to build up to a county semi-final. It's very, very short. And St Michael's, it's a huge occasion.
Massive, and we've spoke. There's no recovery time if you do pick up a niggle. But apart from that, too, you've the support of the club, the excitement that will be down, and St Michael's, Dunlow this week, getting to a semi-final, knowing that they've a real opportunity of getting to a county final, and to have all that kind of pushed into the space of a week is too much, in my opinion. And it's nearly like we're trying to shoehorn the championship to get it run off as quick as possible, without enjoying it, without letting people enjoy it for what it should be, because this is our premier competition. We should be able to enjoy it to the best, and it's only 1 week, so that I'm sure shifts can be made and there'll be amendments made for next year, and that these things are taken on board.
Absolutely. Well, just looking at some of those fixtures for this weekend, as we indicate in the senior championship, it's St Michael's against Dunlow. McCool Park is the venue at Sunday at 3:30. On Saturday night, it's Gildea against St Eunan's at 7:30 in McCool Park as well. In the Senior B, the reserve, Gildea against Four Masters in McCool on Saturday at 5:30, and St Eunan's against Neve Connell in McCool Park at 1:30. In the Senior C semi-finals, it's Sean McCool's against Neve Connell in Glenfin on Saturday at 2:30, and St Eunan's against Termon in Glenfin at 4 o'clock there as well. In the Senior Championship relegation playoff, it's Clonelly against St Knowles in Glenswally at 3 o'clock, and in the Intermediate Championship relegation, it's Letterkenny Gales against Burton Convoy at 6 p.m. Okay, lads, we're going to get straight into it here. Saturday night, Gildea against St Eunan's. Suppose Brendan Devenney's going to close his ears on this one, but John, suppose coming into this, obviously, all indications would point to St Eunan's as being favourites for this one.
Before we go there, and I think it's something we should mention, is another club that has had an amazing championship and was very unlucky in the weekend, and we could be talking about them right now, is Four Masters.
Yeah.
Very young side, developing, had a great championship, had some big victories, produced some fantastic moments throughout the championship, have some, future county men in their ranks in the not too distant future, and ran Gildea to the pin of their collar, and again, coming down the straight with a couple of minutes to go, toss of a coin, and Gildea managed to see it out. So it's important to recognise that as well. I know we spoke a lot about the other teams, and probably because they played earlier in the weekend, but a team that we're going to talk a lot more about over the coming years. But anyway, back to Gildea St Eunan's. As I said a couple of weeks ago, somewhat jokingly, after the Neve Connell St Eunan's game in Glenties, we were really talking about the big one, and ultimately I don't see any reason to change that. I think St Eunan's have a real chip on their shoulders this year. Beating Neve Connell was a big deal for them for all sorts of reasons, and I don't think they want to take their eye off the ball right now, because beating Neve Connell in a quarter final and then getting beat by Gildea in a semi final doesn't fit the script to a certain extent. Gildea have proven that they can beat St Eunan's, so they're not coming to make up the numbers as proud Gildea men. That's not going to change. They've come through the championship without being overly impressive, but they're there on merit. So it'll be a ding dong. I would imagine it'll be very defensive. Gildea will put their bodies on the line and really have a go at it. But all things being equal, and Gildea will be delighted with this because I've tipped against them twice so far. So I'm going for the hat trick now, and all things would suggest that it should be a Union's victory. Yeah. But it's a county semi-final, and anything can happen.
Yeah, and experience would tell me you never take Gildea for granted, because learned too much down through the years, over the last 20, 30, 25 years, we know the qualities they have. And this is a new Gildea team. But you look at the spine of that Gildea team. Gary McFadden is still one of the best markers, man-to-man markers in the game. You look at Niall Freed, centre-back. Donal McGillivray is playing the football, is playing really, really good. He's going to take stock, and so he is. And of course, you've Darrow O'Boyle, Owen de Burke is another player I like. So Gildea will relish going in as underdogs. Make no mistake about it. And they have the quality all over the field. As a very youthful young team, there's no McGee's anymore, there's no Oran McNeilis, there's no Micheál Carroll. So, now I think Unions will have learned from the game in the group stages out in the park. The struggle to break them down. Gildea set up very defensively that day. I think that Unions will have learned from that and will be expecting that again, because that's what they're going to get. So they are on Saturday evening. So listen, I wouldn't call it more than 50-50. Obviously Unions are going to be hot favourites going in, but games between Gildea and Unions take on a life of their own over the last number of years.
And reflecting on John's point earlier just about Four Masters and the campaign they had as well, Bren, you were there last night, and I suppose it was just a couple of maybe when Four Masters was in possession, copping up that possession that cost them. They're going to take so much heart out of this year's competition.
They are, yeah, and I've seen them a couple of times now. I saw them against Glenswilly too, and I was very impressed with them. A lot of really good young players coming through, and they also have more coming in the next layer too that didn't, that were just 16, 17-year-olds. So Four Masters are definitely back, and they can be really pleased with their championship, the whole championship, and indeed yesterday. They'll take huge learnings from it, because it was just experience at key times in the game that probably cost them. Unforced errors, turnovers, and, but to get back to it, they had a fantastic championship, and they can hold their heads up proud. They got promoted to Division 1 in the league, and that'll help them to play in Division 1 football next year too, so it will.
And the physical aspect as well, John, it's something that takes time to develop as well as young players.
It does, and there were two very similar teams, and to a certain extent, like Gildea are a new side, as Brendan said. Maybe Gildea are 2 or 3 years further ahead in the sense that they're a bit older. They're 21, 22, 23 coming through, and both these clubs are going to have a big say in the championship in the years to come, because they're really building that base. And it takes while. An 18-year-old versus a 25-year-old in the current environment is a wild difference. Big physical men. The game's gone like that. And years ago when Brendan and I were playing, a corner forward could be a corner forward, and he had to worry about his corner back, but that was about the height of it. Now with blanket defences, nobody's 1-on-1 anymore. So that physical build and guys maturing physically is even more important than it was. But Gildea found a way. They obviously were in a final last year, so it's not like it's anything new here. They won a semi-final last year. They know how it's done. Yeah. They were in a final last year. They'll learn from that. The worry I have is that I do believe, as Bren said, they'll set up defensively and they'll really try to shut it down. If Unions get ahead of steam up and then they have to come out of play, then that's going to cause them problems, and that's ultimately what happened in last year's county final. They set up defensively, they had a couple of chances, they didn't take them, and then they've kind of opened up and then the game ran away. But they're going to learn from all that. I expect it to be very cagey, intense, very physical, because they'll have to bring the physicality to it. Which is difficult against Unions, because they're a big, strong physical outfit themselves. It's hard to bully them. But Brendan's right. As a Unions man, he has to go 50-50. But from a neutral perspective, to the delight of the Gildea contingent yet again, I would have to favour the St Unions men.
Okay, thanks lads for that one. Before we let you go, of course, there's another big semi-final. It's St Michael's against Dunlow, and where do you start with this one, lads? This is going to be an exciting one. Really looking forward to this, because this is going to go right down to the wire. Brendan.
Yeah, it is, and it's a difficult one to call, as we've covered it. Two teams in their first semi-final in a long time, so it is a difficult one to call. The Michael Langan factor, I think, will be a big factor in that too. So it will. But you're coming back, and how right are you going to be? I have a sneaking suspicion, for some reason, and there's nothing. There's no scientific, nothing scientific behind this, that Dunlow might just sneak it.
What do you think of that, John?
I'm not even going to comment because anything I say will be wrong, and I don't want to offend either club because it's a kiss of death at this point, given this year's championship. Listen,
it was pointed out to me yesterday as well.
It's like, no matter. And I went into last week and I was going, right, there's always going to be a shock in the championship, and I thought, given the game, I thought Four Masters were the shock team for me, and then everybody else decided they were going to shock everybody. No, listen, I couldn't call it, and I genuinely couldn't call it because out of respect to both, I haven't seen enough of them this year to give you an honest opinion and say this, that, and other. It'd be just wrong of me. And as I said, I don't want to offend anybody in Dunlow or St Michael's because I spend time down in Dunfanny, and I know a lot of Dunlow people. And neither one of them want me to pick them, so I'm sitting on the fence, firmly on the fence. John, I'm sitting firmly on the fence.
Man, John.
And then on
Can I get back on the fence?
and then on the other side of the equation, I picked St Eunan's, so Gildea are delighted. And if Eunan's managed to mess it up, I don't know how unhappy I'm going to be either. So that's a different situation completely. And Brendan's giving me dirty looks through the glass here.
F spots and maybes, but it's going to be another exciting weekend to look forward to. Of course, it is the Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Donegal Senior Football Championship semi-final stages on Saturday night. It's Gildea against St Eunan's in McCool Park. Will be live here on Highland Radio Saturday Sport, and on Sunday, of course, is that crunch time between St Michael's and Dunlow at 3:30 p.m. from McCool Park as well. We'll have full live coverage as well on Highland Radio Sunday Sports. You're listening to the DL Debate with myself, Pauric Hilferty. Big thanks to John Gildea for joining us, and Brendan Kilcoyne as well. Coming up after the break, Brendan Devenney, myself and Maureen will speak all about the Ladies Championship and how that's taken shape. Also, we'll reflect on the Intermediate Championship and the Junior Championship after these.
The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend. A public interest message from Donegal County Council. Donegal County Council would like to remind farmers of the following changes in good agricultural practice regulations and key actions as autumn and winter approach. Land spreading of slurry may have to be completed as early as the 1st of October, unless an extension is granted by the government. Farmyard manure cannot be applied to land after the 1st of November. Spreading of soiled water to land is prohibited between the 1st of December and the 31st of December this year for all milk producers except winter milk suppliers. Please check and repair gutters and downpipes now to minimise soiled water in yards and ensure that any effluent is directed to storage tanks. Donegal County Council, protecting your environment.
I can't stop myself, Doctor. I'm just a weak man. But it feels so good, it's so easy and quick. Ever since I discovered Chadwick's online, it's been a game changer. Chadwick's do everything. I started ordering a few tools to fix a few jobs around the house, but that wasn't enough. I ordered more from Chadwick's. The jobs got bigger, the tools got stronger. My kitchen's like a workshop and I'm halfway through and not the conversion. I need help, Doctor. Because it's a two-man job. Will you give us a hand? Shop online now at chadwicks.ie. Click, search, done.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
If you're naturally curious and want to solve problems, or you want to have an impact on issues you really care about, if you want to make a difference through better public policy, or you've a grá for Gaeilge and want to keep it in the conversation, if you want to use your skills to benefit society, there's a public job for that. Whatever your interest, whatever your skills, explore hundreds of different careers at publicjobs.ie.
Exciting news. Pandora's 3 for 2 promotion is on. Buy 2 pieces at full price and get the third one free. Show someone special that you're thinking of them, or treat yourself. But hurry, this offer won't be around for long. Offer ends 29th of September. Available in participating stores and at pandora.net while stocks last. Terms and exclusions apply.
We love Irish music and we want to show our support for the movers, the makers and the shakers. Right through Irish Music Month this September, join Highland Radio in celebrating those who make every party, every drive, and every day simply magic. Buy Irish albums, Irish tickets, Irish t-shirts, and Irish music merch direct from the musicians themselves. Let's support Irish Music Month. Let's buy Irish. Irish Music Month. Irish radio supporting Irish artists with IBI and Hot Press, supported by Commission Amon Sound and Vision Scheme, funded by the television licence fee. The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, folks, welcome back. As Pauric says at the break, we're going to talk about intermediate and junior, and then on to the ladies. The big final coming up in the intermediate, Sunday, 6th of October at O'Donnell Park. Fascinating game. I seen Malin Neve Columba yesterday. It was a great game of football, Pauric. But first of all, the Termon men keen to make up from last year. You know, when they were touted to be the big team, they got caught out by Downlands. But listen, they look like this year they're not going to leave any stone unturned, and that was a brilliant performance from them. I mean, we didn't see that level of victory coming, and Dara McDade 2-5.
Dara 2-5. You know, it was Dara's been doing that year in year out. You know, he's been our go-to guy for scores for himself and Menda. McCormick as well. You know, have been flying the flag, but no, look,
a great season, haven't they? When you know the scores they're putting up has been great. No, we've a couple of very tough games. I mean, I was impressed with the 2-15 because there was a lot of teams seemed to really clamped them down and made the games real tough, foul, counter-attack games, but they seem to have found their mojo against Nivora.
I found their way, you know, and that was the big thing. But suppose Nivora will be scratching their heads. Of course, I think it was Harry Harden Nivora got a goal into the second half. Termon registered their first goal, and you know, Nivora went straight up and responded with their goal. But Harry Harden got a black card at a crucial time, and suppose that bit of space opened up a little bit further for Dara and for the boys, you know, to create more opportunities, you know. But it was, look, from a Termon point of view, suppose we didn't score till about the 17th minute, I think, in the first half. You know, there was a bit of a breeze in O'Donnell Park and that, you know, but Nivora brought it, and you know, they were full value for their performance going on at half time. But you know, suppose there's an old saying like semi-finals are just about winning if you want to buy a point, or you know, that's as good, you know. But suppose from a Termon point of view, you know, the lads put on a really good performance, and they'll be relieved to get over and into the final as well. But it's just another step, and you know, that's the way they're going to look at it. And you know, you've got Neve Columba in the final, and we played them, I suppose, in the group stages. I think it was the first game out at the Burn Road, you know, and we had a really, really good performance against them, so they'll be licking their lips looking for revenge there as well. But it's going to, you know, it's going to be a good final. You know, Neve Columba like to play football, and you know, it's one of those. You seen that game yesterday against Malin?
2-10 one day again. You know, good scoring in it, and you know, there was a great atmosphere about the park and that. You know, and I thought, you know, at the start of the second half, obviously there was a rebound goal, put Neve Columba 266 point up, serious driving seat there, right? So a lot of guts from Malin to come back into it, you know, and you know, they hit 1-3 in a row, and then they had a period there where they got level and they had 4 opportunities, right, and they couldn't get ahead. I suppose you'd have to say well done again, as the lads were saying earlier. You know, Neve Columba, that momentum switch to be able to, you know, to find your bit of rhythm again and kick on and eventually, you know, pull away again from Malin. It was big effort. 2 teams obviously were in the final the last 2 years, the 2 of them. So, you know,
Malin will be bitterly disappointed.
Yeah,
like, you know,
they put in a big shift. Like, we played them earlier in the league.
Yeah,
I tell you, they're a good side. They got about us, you know, and I was impressed with them. So
decent and physical team, like, and have a lot of footballers across.
Doing a lot of work, good work down there. You know, you'd have to say they give it their all. You know, that's the thing about it. I suppose if you leave it out there, you know, you can't have that many complaints. Just Neve Columba had that wee bit extra on the day.
And you look at Glen; they've been knocking on the door for a number of years in this intermediate, you know, and it's going to be. You're hoping it's going to be a cracking final, and I do believe, because in finals you have to go for it. I think, Brendan, you know, you have to throw off the shackles a wee bit, and that kind of it's a different game, really, you know.
Listen, I can't wait for these finals. Plus, there are times when it's just their own park. You can properly, you know, there's no senior on. You know, you can go out and watch them and take time and see them, and that's the big thing. Of course, the day before that intermediate final, the junior finals on. Brilliant pairing in this too. I'm really looking forward to this. You know, Karen has been my tip at the start of the season. had a brilliant victory over St Mary's Convoy. Fergal Doherty, the main man there, won 3. His goal to start the second half, caught a bad kick out from the Convoy keeper, was the pivotal score, and Karen pushed on from there, and that's setting up a brilliant. Listen, Eve Pauric, Muff, I mean, they are the goal kings.
4 goals against.
They just seemed, and that was out. The big Lynch lad up front with him. He was on the county under-20s. He came on sub, bangs a goal and gets involved a couple. He had a hat trick the week before. Like, he has a handful, and you look at it, 477. And that's a massive victory for them on the day. And you talk about goals. McColgan, the county star, 1-1. He plays more up front, forward for them. So, if they're going in, you hit the onion bag. You look at that game, what separates them, and I think that's set up. I think that's the best 2 teams in that. I'm glad that they're the 2 teams that have made the final.
Karen Dunner's been doing great things, and it's going to be a good final, as you've indicated. But that's the old saying: the goals won games. And if you've got a lad who's got an eye for a goal, he's.
Yeah, it was a big season from Niamh Bolton as well. Listen, they did give it their all in terms of they had some very impressive performances on there themselves. I did Mary's Convoy, but I just think Karen, for me, they're the best 2 teams. That's set up for a cracking encounter as well. Hopefully the weather holds at O'Donnell Park, and we look forward to these games. We're also going to talk now with the great Maureen O'Donnell. Mo, you're waiting patiently there to give us a bit of update on the ladies. How are you keeping?
Do you want the truth?
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Don't get me wrong, it was an epic weekend of football, but I need a week's break.
I know. So you were everywhere. I was chatting to you about the men's game yesterday, Mo. I was telling you that I'd seen St Eunan's against Maville in the big semi-final, and we were talking about that block that he put in and how difficult it is to break down in that, Mo. And I suppose, 5-1 down at half-time, they did come back to 6-4, and when Eunan's probably desperately needed a goal, it was Maville got it, and you could see that bit of experience and defensive shape. That was the pivotal score in the game, Mo, and really set up. I mean, for you, do you think that is the final, more than I just said with the junior there? 2 good teams now, Maville and Termon, coming into this final.
Yeah, listen, I'm sure St Eunan's will be highly disappointed as well, but in a semi-final stage, they went without scoring for 33 minutes, so it's a very long period of time for that to happen. They also kicked 10 wide. So you can imagine how in the game they would have been had they converted those as well. So, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. But look, certainly a contender for the future. They're sitting up there with 13 titles. Termon have yet to catch them. They're on 8 and they're going for 9. But it's nice this year, you see, with Maville and Termon, because for the last 5 years it's been Termon, Glenfin, and Glenfin, as you know, aren't in the contention at all this year. So it's nice to see Maville come into it. Maville will probably be disappointed that they don't have the 2 McLaughlin sisters. They're missing those. They're both gone to Australia. Fine footballers. Niamh McLaughlin, our county captain, and her sister Blanet. And but Maville are doing very, very well. They still have Niamh Higgerty in their entire Higgerty. They have Kate McClenaghan. They have Niamh Skelly in the middle of the field. Sara Faulkner in there, great experience in the team still, and they've a wealthy youth coming up through it as well. So Kate McClenaghan's a very smart, strong player too. And she pairs up well with Niamh Higgs. Great pace.
Yeah. I just going to say, Mo, like, people have to step up. We were just chatting earlier about like St Michael's, Langan going away, because people were saying then, Langan's gone now, that's your opportunity. Yet they won the match. So sometimes we look at these good players going, of course they're a miss, but it's not as if you're playing with 13. Other girls will step up into the play, and it'll force them to be better in their position.
Yeah, and sometimes, and you've seen it happening with teams, is that, look, players rely too heavily on these players, these more experienced, the county players, the big stars, and they just sort of are always kind of in their shadow. And we look at the kind of the men's game over the weekend there, Glen Swilly, everybody's looking to Michael Murphy for the big performance, and then nearly when he doesn't play, because you expect him to play, the same as Geraldine or Niamh Higgerty or anything, when they're expecting to play, then if they don't play, nobody else steps up to the plate. So sometimes when these players aren't there, these other players come to the fore and shine, and that's exactly as you say, because these big players aren't going to be around forever. So it's great to see young players coming into the team. And look, Termon have some great young players coming up there, and Maville have some great young players, and I've seen it now from watching the games. There's a lot of good young players coming into it, and that's what we need for county as well. We need the standards to go up, because we won't have these experienced players forever, you know, Brendan. So it is really, really good.
Mo, just on Tyrone, you know, we used to see these score lines a good bit in ladies football. You don't see them as much now, but the 6-9, you know what I mean? You talk about, we were just chatting about Niamh Pauric and goals now. Obviously, Niamh Connell 2-7, it's not the worst score line, but, you know, they're improving as ever. But I mean, we're back to this serious, you know, goal threat that Tyrone possess, and they blitzed Niamh Connell with that ability.
Yeah, and they also played, you know, Nivora the week before that, and the group stages, the end of the group stages, and, you know, Nivora having only coming up into senior as well, so there was a lot of goals in the game. And look, Tyrone have the capability of scoring goals. You know, they're still dotted with so much experience there in Tyrone. Roisin McCaff, Roisin Frail, Evelyn McGinley's in there from St Michael's, like Shannon McLaughlin, Ciara McGarvey, all playing up, Emer Gallagher, all playing county still at the minute. And then, you know, Orla Corey and Geraldine, I mean, when Geraldine's in the forward line, you know, a lot of teams go out specifically to try and mark her and to try and stop the supply of ball in there. And, you know, they're nearly going out with a game plan for that. And instead of trying to, and that's why it becomes so defensive. Then they set up behind the ball to try and stop the supply of ball into Geraldine, and maybe 2 and 3 players on her. So it becomes very, very defensive, but still goals. And then, you know, like, they're not attacking then. They're not, you may as well go out and try and win the game, as it doesn't matter how much you lose by. I know you said 6 goals, 9 goals, whatever. It doesn't really matter what. These teams are losing while in a defensive setup instead of attacking as best they can, you know, Brendan.
Right. So the mantra would be, Mo, you got to build on that attack, and even if you shift some like defeats in that, you're going to grow into that. Otherwise, if you just sit and you're being opened up anyway, you're not going to evolve as a team.
Well, you're not really, and you end up playing your team based on another team, you know, so you know, why not play to your own strategy, or bring your own strategy or your own team play to it, new passages of play, passages of attack. Like, as I say, it's the same losing by 20 points as it is 1 point. So instead of setting up defensively, go at it and just, you know, as Maville said yesterday, Niamh Higgs said yesterday, we've nothing to lose, so we're going to go into this game, you know, and most teams going in against Tyrone have nothing to lose, you know, and you have everything to gain by maybe overturning them. And look, you probably could predict that Tyrone would win at this stage, you know. In terms of the ladies' football, it's more predictable at the minute, but what I say about all games is that any team is beatable on the day. Yeah. So, Brendan, it doesn't really matter. Like, Maville haven't been in a final now since they won and since 2018. They were in 2016, 17 and 18. They won it in 2016. They got beat by Glenfin then 2 years after that. But Tyrone have never won a final against Maville. They were last met in the final in 2009, and I think Maville beat us by 7 points that day. So listen.
Oh, yeah, you remember that one, Mo. Listen, that's a good wee warning sign. That's how we're going to leave it, Mo. Thanks so much for that roundup as ever. All my guests this evening, Mo, we'll be talking again, and there'll be a bit more time as well. Listen, quick shout out to Paul Houston. Nicole's man is over Roger Casements there. They're in the Warwickshire final at the weekend. We've Donegal boys all involvement. Their captain is Shane Boyle from Kilcar, Jack Gillespie and Oisin McElhinney from Red Hughes.
Best of luck, lads.
Dean Boner from Mary's Convoy. Good luck to Donegal boys in that game.
25 years since you're 14. 25 years since you're 14 points.
Okay, I'll history. Cheers, folks. Good luck.
The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's kitchen, and there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
At 8, good evening, I'm Tina Gates. Lebanon says more than 350 people, including 24 children, have been killed in Israeli airstrikes today. The Lebanese government has ordered schools and universities